sunk down in with my head barely sticking up above the hood because they made all these cars with the dash way up here in the air. You're just kind of peeking out over it, and I love it when you step on it and it just kicks in and tears out.
Pontiac had pulled off a bushwhack of its sister divisions with the GTO. It hit the market like an atomic bomb, and the whole world scrambled to jump on this bandwagon. Oldsmobile reacted first. By mid-year 1964, a new option appeared on the Cutlass F85's order form. Option B09 delivered you a brand new 64 Cutlass with a hot rod version of their 310 horsepower, 330 cubic inch Jetfire rocket engine and special performance suspension. On its body and interior, there appeared little badges which told the world that this car had a 4-barrel carb, a 4-speed transmission, and dual exhausts. And yes, even the ones with automatic transmissions had the badges. Pontiac had circumvented GM's 10 pounds per cubic inch rule by making the 389 part of the GTO option package. Olds didn't have to pull a similar fast one on their management since their engine was a 330 and the car weighed about 3,400 pounds. Olds' 330 was rated only 25 horsepower less than the GTO's standard 335 horse 389. In a side-by-side stoplight drag race, though, it still did all right. Still, though, this new muscle car marketplace was a real go-big or stay-home proposition. So by the following year, Olds was ready. The first 4 and 442 now meant 400 cubic inches. It was this horsepower that enticed Ken Hickey to restore his 442.
This is my 1965 Oldsmobile 442. I've had it for about 4.5 years. I found it for sale in the paper just here in Atlanta and went in to see it and kind of fell in love with it. I'd never seen a 65 442, but I really fell in love with the body style and especially the interior. I did an engine rebuild on it about 2.5, 3 years ago. Wasn't anything major. I just put it back to stock pretty much. Just took care of the components that are made to wear. It's been a great car. It's never left me stranded on the side of the road. It's been a great car.
For 1966, the Olds engineers went in search of some quick and easy horsepower. So they resurrected the triple carburetor setup, which made the Olds motors so mean nearly a decade earlier. This was the W30 engine. With a bore of 4 inches and a stroke of 3.975, equipped with a standard Rochester Quadrajet carburetor, the Olds 400 developed 350 horsepower at 5,000 RPM and 440 foot-pounds of torque at 3,600 RPM. With triple Rochester carburetors, it made 10 more horsepower. The engine was still rated at 10.5 to 1 compression, and the W30 option provided a wilder cam and valve train improvements. When you open the hood on a tri-carb-equipped 66 442, though, you might just see a strange-looking air cleaner and 2 large tubes running to ducts below the front bumper. 2 of the big buzzwords of the muscle car era were hood scoop. They looked racy, and they set the muscle car apart from the more mundane base vehicle from which it was usually derived. Magazines went gaga over hood scoops, even the ones that didn't work. And by 1965, some folks were even opening up the scoops. Unfortunately, the 442 had a flat hood, so they had to be a little creative to get some cold air into the engine. The only thing climbing faster than the 442's horsepower was its price tag. A full-on 67 442 hit the streets with a sticker price of almost $4,300.
When I decided I wanted to purchase one, I looked in Hemmings, and I found the car. It was listed, it was owned by a dentist who lived in Staten Island, New York. And I went up to New York and took a look at the car, and the minute I saw it, I decided I wanted to buy it. It reminds me of a time in my life that was pretty special, a lot of fun. Well, they're a lot easier to work on, and you need that because you're always working on them. They're not as high-tech as today's cars. They don't ride as well. You know, they're not as comfortable, but for nostalgia and fun, they're a lot more enjoyable.
As the 68 models were introduced with a new body style, Olds took a leap forward in the entire industry and redesigned the 400 engine to reduce exhaust emissions.
While the rest of the auto industry was dinking around with air pumps as a stopgap pollution control, Oldsmobile re-engineered their entire 400. And they kept their horsepower levels up too, 350 for stick cars, 325 for automatics.
I've had this car for about a year now, and last summer I tore it apart, redid my engine on it, and I haven't really done anything to the body. I got it from a woman who was the original owner here in Atlanta, Georgia. She had the car, got it as a graduation present in 1968, and pretty much took real good care of it. All the pieces are about 95% here, so my restoration work on it hasn't been too bad because I haven't had to look for too much. It has been a doozy, though. The couple pieces that I have needed, I've found have been hard to come by. Right inside here in the engine, you can see where I did all my restoration work on it. I pulled the motor out and the transmission all out and took the front nose all apart. Took my hood off and redid all my fender wells and my nose pieces in here. Had all my radiator and my engine block all redone, my transmission redone. And the reason that I went for 68 Olds, when I was younger, I had a old F85 that we used to bracket race, and I was always particular to that body style. I like the fact that the side wells bubble out a little more, have a little more definition than like your Chevelles or Camaros or any of them. And it's just a good, fast car. It was always a lot of fun to drive.
The 442 was already an expensive, high-profile car. These are just the kinds of cars that make excellent platforms for what they call special edition cars. The Hurst Olds was a very special edition.
George Hurst wanted an executive hot rod, so he had Jack Watson tool up a doctored-up 442. He fitted it with a lot of custom touches, grill, a spoiler that rose off the rear deck when the brakes were applied. This was a prototype. When the production cars hit, the dealers were clamoring for them.
515 Hurst Oldses were built in 1968, and this small production run was actually farmed out to a nearby business in Lansing, Demmer Tool and Die. All 68 Hurst Oldses came with the 455 engine that Olds wouldn't put into a regular 442. This 455 received the W30 treatment with the hot cam and the other goodies. All 68 Hurst Oldses came with the M40 turbo hydromatic trans and the Hurst dual gate shifter, naturally, and every heavy-duty option you could get on a 442, from battery to fan to radiator. All were painted